Sure.
Hello, everybody. This one is coming from Brooklyn, New York. As usual, we talk about politics and we talk about local things, very important to us. And our guest is well equipped with humor, common sense, and the sane mind. We have George Sarantopoulos with us. He's a Republican candidate for city council. George, how are you?
Hey, Yuri. Thanks for having me on again. Just so for people to know, I'm running for city council, Bay Ridge, Seagate, Coney Island, and Bath Beach, and a little bit of Diker Heights, a little piece of Diker Heights. But I don't want to leave Diker Heights out. So yeah. So in case you didn't know, and that's the 47th district. That's where I'm running for city council.
What's the ethnic color of this of the district? Can you tell me? I know that this is in the days of yore. It was started by Scandinavians, right?
Yeah, so back in the day, Bay Ridge over here was very Norwegian, and then in the 60s and 70s, I believe in the 50s, became very Italian and Greek. And now, Bay Ridge, like every other neighborhood, there's a lot of Arabic people moving in the north side and a little bit of Chinese people in the other parts of the district. Neighborhoods, as they
Mhm.
change a lot in New York City. So we have maybe three, four waves in the last 100 years of immigration in this city. So it's just an amazing. The district is like a mini United Nations. It's made up of all kinds of different people. Um, yeah, it's actually one of the reasons why I'm running. Listen, when I ran for city council, when I decided to make this decision to run for city council, being part of this community and surviving cancer and that battle, it motivated me to give back after doing well with cancer and surviving. It was a big motivation for me to fight for this community. I see a neighborhood that I chose to live in this neighborhood. I chose to live in South Brooklyn, and I chose to buy a house here, to raise my daughter here, to raise my stepson, to get married here. It's worth fighting for. Let's just leave it at
No,
that.
it's a lovely area. It's a very historical area. You have Fort Hamilton there. You have a beautiful view on New York Harbor. You have Verrazano Bridge. You have a lot of greenery, parks, shopping, restaurants. Right?
I
Fantastic
would say
restaurants.
we have in the district, and I don't want to leave the rest of the district out. You're in Bath Beach and Coney Island and Seagate. Well, not Seagate so
Yeah,
much.
I
No,
won't let you do it.
yeah, but we have every type of restaurant you can imagine. From Uzbekistan to Greek to Italian to Turkish to Arabic. I don't think and different types of Arabic food too, right? Palestinian, Syrian, Chinese, of course. It's mini United Nations in this district. We have
Yeah.
161,000 people. It's a good cross section of New Yorkers here.
Yeah, I have an epiphany. I can tell you that our United Nations will outlive the United Nations on Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza.
I
Our
listen.
our community is much stronger than what's going on in the official building of the UN in New York City. I
Well,
think.
no doubt, Harry, no doubt.
What's important going on? What is so important that's going on now in New York City? You're going to the city council. You want to be a part of the city council, which is a very uh, interesting body of governance. New York City has a budget that is bigger than most of the countries of the world. It's over $200 billion. I think it's over $250 billion. A lot of money here, and the way people are taking care of this and taking care of the constituents is sometimes very peculiar, don't you think?
Well,
What
I
they
think
think, what they prioritize nowadays when everything is
I
in
think the
motion.
I think the priorities in our city are, we're not focused on making the lives of everyday New Yorkers better. I just, we were talking a little bit before we started, but there was this bill that a bunch of bills that just passed this week about, transgender people. That was the priority this week of the city council. There's people getting burned to death on the train, but hey, we got to focus on the transgender bill. And if you would allow me, I can just give you a breakdown.
Please do.
One of the bills is by Chai Ossie, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but that's a bill that wants to assess how we can provide more services to new immigrants. I mean, God forbid, transgender or gender affirming care for new citizens, not even citizens, for new migrants that are coming into the city. There was a bill by Shahana Hanif, councilwoman, where it makes it illegal to protest in front of a gender affirming or gender. I'm sorry for I'm not using the right language, but any kind of hospital or a clinic that's providing care to change gender or whatever. It's so crazy. To children up to 14 years old. So all this craziness is coming from Trump and his executive order, where he's cutting off money that is going to hospitals or clinics, and by executive order he cut it off, and all the insane people in the city council are going crazy because, hey, we got to fight for the small super minority, and forget about the majority of New Yorkers who are struggling to make a living here, to afford to live here. And that's what's the big fight in the city council. That's their big concern. And it passed. The insanity passed. You could also, good news, Yuri, if you on a government document and you don't want to put male or female now, you could put an X. It's, this is the big issue of 2025 that needed to be fought for in the city council. Not, again, the real issues: safety, affordability, housing, all the things that are concerning to everyday New Yorkers. Sorry to go on about it, but it's just shocking.
No, it's absolutely fine. That's why we're here, and we need to know those things, and people need to know those things. Like the rest of the world is knocking on the doors of New York City and telling us what we should take care should have taken care of, and we sit inside and we do things like you described. You're on fire, people telling you, and you're sitting there and let me finish this checkers match with my cat, and then we'll take care of the fire. Exactly. And the tax base is something that politicians, even Republicans, don't want to hear about. We got to stop.
Did you see the article in the Post? $14 billion of economic activity left the city.
$40 billion in red, right? And nobody's kind of speaking seriously about what's going on. New York is like multi-layered society. New York City, I'm talking about. And there are people who are really doing serious things and build buildings and open museums and open shops and open businesses, and they innovate and they invent and they implement and they make deals, etc., etc. And on what's supposed to be the creme de la creme of our society, the city council, where like people are sitting and deciding what to do. Instead, they're sitting there, and as I said, the hair's on fire. No.
I mean, listen, I'm also concerned about economic opportunities for our children and grandchildren, right? Because we a couple of months ago, and it was a small blurb in the newspaper, that the New York Stock Exchange is opening up a branch in Dallas. Okay. Is that the beginning of something? I don't know. Obviously I'm not in the leadership of the New York Stock Exchange. But is that the beginning? Because New York City is going to have a shock if one day the stock exchange, and it's not out of the realm of possibility, one day Hollywood thought all movies are going to be filmed in Hollywood, California, right? And then one day it all disappeared, right? Most filming now is going on in Georgia, Louisiana, parts of Canada, Mexico, Spain,
Hungary, Europe,
Hungary.
Czech Republic,
anywhere but California. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that one day the stock exchange says, you know what? We're going to keep the name New York Stock Exchange, but most of the activity is going to happen in another state that is favorable towards what the business that we're doing of stock trading. Now, the reason why I bring that up, most New Yorkers, they don't work in the stock market, but that budget that you were talking about is funded by multi-billionaires who live here in New York City because they are part of that business, and that funds that generous city council and state budget that we have. And if one day that goes away, it's going to be a real shocker to the budget of both the city and state here in New York.
Yeah, and I spoke with a number of candidates for city council, for the state assembly, and the members too, and they say no, it's a done deal. Nobody's coming back. We have no way to bring those people back. And to me, this point of view is, to put it mildly, strange. We need people who will see the problem, offer the ways and to solve it. And of course, you cannot stop anybody by force, but you got to offer incentives. You got to understand where the kind of bread is coming from.
Listen, I'm a business owner, so that's where I come from. So I've experienced leading an organization, leading a company, leading a group of people, and our company is nationwide. So I have the experience, right? But our city council is full of professional politicians. They've never worked a real day in their life, and if they've done some work, they've worked for a nonprofit for a little bit, or a politician, but they've never worked in business. So we need more councilmen out there. If we want to keep the economic activity in our city, if we want to keep our city prosperous, if we want to have a big, nice budget to do all these generous things and take care of the poor of our city or vulnerable, you need this big budget. And that's not going to happen if hundreds of thousands of businesses flee the city, which is what's happening currently. $14 billion doesn't, they're just numbers told to the average voter, to the average person, but they start adding up, right? And one day we're going to wake up and our city is going to look like, Detroit, if things keep going. So we need somebody in there, more experienced business people, more people that are out there that know a lot about business. I'm glad to see Frank Morano just won the city council. He's he's going to be great. Vicky Palladino has a lot of business experience. I mean, we need more people out there that know how to create some economic opportunities in our city so people can actually afford to live here.
It's hard to get a very successful person to drop everything and go and dive into this city business. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, it's reasonable to expect that somebody who would go into politics would at least have the understanding where of the economic basics of these things. You are so generous with your desire to go and give back to the society after running the business that was successful, but you cannot demand.
Thank you very much, Yuri. For saying that's very kind.
No, I'm proud to know you, and you actually show a good example. But a lot of people who have no business talent, so to speak, at least should demonstrate respect for every forms of life, so to speak, in the city, especially to the forms that put kind of food on the table, in form of so many things. You open a restaurant, you open a hospital, you open business store, and you bring food to where people do not know how to get their food differently.
Well, listen, I would have been fine. Look, a couple of years ago, as I was saying, my battle with cancer, and then, it wasn't looking good, right? There was a 90% chance I wasn't going to make 5 years. Oh. Those are not my numbers. Those are the doctor's numbers, one of the doctor's numbers. And to come out of it alive, I think that that God gives us meaning sometimes in ways we least expect it. And, he doesn't keep us around to buy a bigger house or to make a more profit margin or get a nicer car or whatnot. He keeps us around for a purpose. So I decided, listen, when I decided to run, to use my business experience, run in the city council and try to make a difference, and try to bring some knowledge, a little diversity of knowledge, not just diversity for diversity's sake.
I wonder how many Republicans or people with common sense. I don't expect much on the Democrat side because they are all kind of dyed in the wool in the ideas that did not work, or they only work until other people have the money.
It must be sad, Yuri, for somebody like yourself that came from the other side, from a communist country, to see people here in New York City that are members of the Democratic Socialists of America and trying to bring that to New York or the United States. I mean, it's just shocking to me that, well, that didn't work over there, but let's try it here. This time we're going to get it right, like for sure,
Yeah, the truth of the matter is that there is more money in the United States, more people who didn't go through the experience of living in a socialist country, so you can fool a lot of people once, right? As they say.
Well, apparently you could fool them more than once because they're
Yeah.
they want to bring that crazy system over here, and the city council is just full of those people, that just want to, and they always tell you the same thing. Oh, we're going to get it right this time. We're not going to, we don't need to shoot anybody. It's going to be so great that, it'll all work out. Don't worry,
And then they set the censorship. They set the rules that you have to follow that are unconstitutional. They force you to use the pronouns. They fire you if you don't use pronouns. They fire you if you don't go to the compulsory training on how to use pronouns, etc., etc., etc. All those things are absolutely unthinkable in a city that wants to be dynamic, to be in its own league, so to speak. It's all following. If we look at what happens in Europe, Europe is going more or less conservative, and it came as a surprise to many. Today, I've learned that in Great Britain, all of a sudden, the conservatives, Nigel Farage's group in the parliament, they qualified for having enough seats to become the official opposition.
Oh wow,
And,
that's I mean, Nigel Farage, just for the audience, and you probably know this too, Yuri, was considered fringe back in the day. Remember, he was.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they were polling more than a couple of percentage points at one time, and I guess people in England or the United Kingdom have done. They just they need a choice. They need something new. I mean, and I think the Conservatives, the Tories in the UK, sold them out. Sold out the everyday people, right? They became another globalist party that doesn't really care about everyday British people,
Yeah, and they bet on anti-Trump card. They wouldn't bet against Donald Trump, our New York man now in the White House. Democrats are betting against him. Whatever he does, it becomes their policy to immediately go and counter him and do something to push back.
Listen, forget about
Trump. Your own mind. Don't look at Trump all the time.
Forget about Trump for a second. Did anyone actually believe Kamala? I mean, Kamala couldn't even put two sentences together. If the Democrats put somebody together that could at least put two sentences together, Trump would have had a hard time. But Kamala, she couldn't even put two sentences together. She couldn't even explain her position. The CBS News had to take her whole, hour of just ranting, and mumbling about and string it together to get 5 good minutes, right? You remember the lawsuit? I mean, she couldn't even put two sentences together.
Yeah,
so what other choice? What other choice did the voter have? I mean, look, I voted for Trump. I understand, but the voter out there, there was no enthusiasm for Kamala. I mean, did anyone think that the country would be better off with her as president? You'd be insane to think that.
And also, they swore on their mother's grave that Joe Biden is like a world champion in weightlifting and decathlon and whatever, and he would beat any world record any time of the day. It was just, and now we're looking at, say, Bernie Sanders, who's like 3 steps behind Honestly, physically, he's like mentally, because he's saying same thing for 15 years. Oligarchs, right? So he's against the oligarchs. So he's mentally, he's not as sharp, and he's not capable of new ideas. He's just have this old saw that he repeats again and again. And
Getting back, getting back to
very,
Joe Biden, like what the
yeah.
question remains for the last couple of years: who the hell was running the country? Who was making the decisions? Because it wasn't Joe Biden.
There was
Was
an
it?
auto pen. There are two auto pens. It's already.
Yeah, was the what we were that advanced in AI? I didn't know that. I mean, it's craziness. Like, who was making the decisions? Was Obama there? Was Michelle Obama there? Was Jill Biden? Was it some intern? Was it the general? Like, who was making the decisions? Like,
I
that was
think
the real threat to democracy.
I think it was a coin cost, or they put names in the hat. Who's going to be signing with auto pen tonight?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's why everyone is going crazy about Trump. What other choice? What other choice was out there? And listen, we got to see how it works out. Is Trump going to be the answer to everything? I don't know. We'll see in 4 years. But Kamala was definitely not the choice. Please, come on.
I may be wrong on numbers, but a little bit, just a little bit. 80,000 federal workers left their workplaces, right? They left the workforce because of Trump, right? During this 100 years that was. I celebrated it, but some people did not celebrate. I celebrated it. So in 100 years, 80,000 people left the workforce, the federal workforce. Today announced that we have 177,000 new jobs. So not something is happening, not entirely in the wrong way, right? So
No,
we
no,
have some growth. We have 4,000 jobs more than was predicted. And you look at the market today, yes, there was a free fall on the day when the tariffs were announced. But then the market started doing what it does. It's not going like a straight line up because nobody's making any money this way. It goes up and it goes down. It goes higher, it goes a little bit lower, yet higher, yet lower. So you look at the stats, and what is like objective indicator is the recruitment.
Did
Right?
you see? Did you see? So in Argentina, Milei, cut down the government workforce, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. We all got to admit that the federal workforce has become super bloated, right? So to cut it back a little bit is not going to be the death of the United States. And what we learned from Argentina was when you cut down the federal budget, the economy grows because there's only so much money in the economy, right? So if you take it and you spend it on building a federal workforce, well, guess what? There's no money in the private sector. I mean, it's sucking money out of the private sector. The money has to come from somewhere. So the point being is, if the government's just building up this big workforce, then there's not enough skilled workers. There's not enough money. There's not enough capital to flow into the private sector. So the opportunities can grow in the private sector. I mean, that's just basic economics. So I mean, like I said, a lot of these city councilmen, I don't think they've taken economics 101. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's short course, and they should be given along at least with the right pronounced course for everybody who goes into politics. But what do you think? How life could be in New York? What it would be without the Department of Education? Is New York ripe to open many schools of all kinds and get education right in New York? Because we are so behind. I just, the James Madison School in my neighborhood is an example. Like 5 Nobel laureates, prize winners graduated from that school. Chuck Schumer graduated from that school. Ruth Bader Ginsburg graduated. And you would think that a school that had 5 Nobel Prize winners and such luminaries, and I'm not counting even the billionaires and the comedians and the sports figures, etc., but they're like in the 1600s somewhere, like 1575th place, 1575th or something place in the country. Do the other schools have more Nobel Prize winners or politicians as
Well,
their
I don't think we're going to have
nominee?
more Nobel Prize winners. If the attack on meritocracy is constant here in New York, where there's this nexus of working families people and DSA people and these anti meritocracy people that want to destroy programs like gifted and talented and specialized high schools. This is where the top student. Now listen, on the other side, we need to have more resources for children with special needs, no question about it, but also you need a nice safe environment for children that can advance a little bit further. That creates that environment where it creates the future scientist, the future Nobel Prize winner or Nobel scientist winner or whatnot that you want. But that's not going to happen where you throw all the kids in the same classroom for the sake of equity. That's the magic word they use, always
Yeah.
equity. Or they'll say, well, we don't really like meritocracy. We need to have a more holistic approach to admissions into school. That's the actual word that they use. Now, what the hell that means, who knows, right? But in order for us to keep producing top tier intellects, you need to have gifted and talented programs. You need to have specialized high schools. You need to have admission tests, and you need to have basically a meritocracy. Without a meritocracy, that doesn't happen.
George, what's next in your campaign? Can you give us kind of some pointers where to go, how to follow you? Maybe you have some events that people would come and would like to volunteer. Those who live in Bay Ridge.
Well,
Or
listen, every campaign, unfortunately, is always about money. So I'd like them to at least check our website, georgeforchangenyc.com. That would be a good place where they can read up about some of the policies and programs I suggest. It's also where they can donate a couple of bucks. I just want to remind the voters,
George is the number. George, I'm sorry.
georgeforchangenyc.com.
Mm-hmm. I'm just typing in the banner.com. Oops.
And I just want to remind you don't have to give a lot of money, right? Anytime you give money and you live in the city of New York, for every $10 you donate, it gets matched 8-1. So if you give $50, that becomes $450. So you can make a big difference in a campaign with very little money. No one has to write a big check for $1,000. In New York City, one of the great programs that they have to make it easy for everyday people to get involved in the process is the matching funds program. And believe me, the Democrats are going to use it. So please, donate and please help out. We always, unfortunately, campaigns need money to be competitive.
GeorgeForChangeNYC.com. Friends, this is the website where you can learn more about George, about his program. George Sarantopoulos is with us. George, spring is almost non-existent in New York. We have
we're going right into
summer. So I wish I was you a happy Mother's Day upcoming, right?
Thank you. I will let the missus know that you wish to have.
Yeah,
my mother.
and let everybody stay cheerful. Let's be happy warriors, my friends. We are not acerbic. We are not big mouth people who are yelling at our political opponents. We just go and do our thing.
I'm saving that for the city council. So please, vote for me. Don't worry, I'll do plenty of screaming in the city council. I have a feeling.
Yeah, I know. I've seen George in action. We kind of comrades in arms because we wanted to do some changes in our dear Republican Party, and we are continuing to do it each in our own way.
There's an organization in Brooklyn. I didn't know there was.
Yeah, it used to be great. It used to be great.
Yeah, it used to be great like 10 years ago, 12 years ago when we had a real chairman. but now not so much. You know.
Окей. Дорогие друзья, по-русски я хочу сказать, голосуйте за Джорджа Сарантопoulos, если вы живете в Бруклине, если вы живете в его округе, округ Берридж, Дайкер Хайтс, обращайте внимание, его плакаты будут размещены. И участвуйте, задавайте вопросы мне. Джордж раскручивает свою кампанию сейчас, собирает деньги, чтобы в конце, перед самыми выборами, пальнуть как следует из всех стволов. И это хороший человек, с которым будет спокойно, когда он будет представлять вас в горсовете города Нью-Йорка. Такое место, где вы не хотите заседать, честно я вам скажу. Там нужен человек с большим терпением, большим знанием того, как живет наш город. И главное, привыкший и не реагирующий на выпады тех, кто несет там ахинею просто при первом удобном случае. Нужен здравый смысл, и Джордж Sarantopoulos его принесет туда. George, thank you so very much. I said only good
Thanks
things.
for having me. I appreciate you.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, George.